Welcome to LVWS Confidential. I'm Gerald Bentley. Today, we're joined by Wolfgang, looking to lead the pack in PCW Arizona. Wolfgang, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Gerald, how are you?
Good, good. And I wanted to get a hold of you because we got a pretty big event. I mean, when they start handing out heavyweight titles, that's as big as you get in wrestling, right?
Yeah, well, and the good thing is that they don't just hand them out. You got to earn them.
Oh, you got to win.
Yeah. So I find myself in a cool spot where I can earn one of these bad boys.
And doing it a real old school way in a one-night tournament. So basically a gauntlet. You're going to have to go through multiple competitors to get a chance to win the title. Not going to be an easy road. There's not a number one contender going up against the champion or just two people arbitrarily picked. You're going to have to go through the field. You're going up against Mr. Classic to start on January 7th. What are your thoughts going into that match?
Thoughts going into that match, it's going to be a slugfest. Mr. Classic and I know each other very well. My first ever match was against Mr. Classic. And he realized that night he took me a little bit too lightly. I pack a punch, even though that had been my first match, and he had been wrestling for quite a bit. Excuse me. I was a determined person to win that match, and I came out on top. And he and I have had some wars between Arizona and California, so it's going to be exciting to see what happens in that match. He and I, like I said, we know each other very, very well. There's nothing that he's going to do that I'm going to be too aware of, although Jerry Kirby is obviously something that you want to consider, him having Jerry Kirby in his corner.
Well, it's always an advantage having a manager there to be a distraction and slip in the random foreign object, right?
Well, hopefully the ref is looking around so we don't have none of that business.
Got to keep an eye on him. Now, I usually ask, how did you get started in wrestling? Because I know you're fairly new to pro wrestling, and you had kind of an unusual transition going from being involved to actually being in the ring.
Yeah, my transition into wrestling was very different from most people. Most people, they start at the base level training. I started as a ring announcer. So I had the best seat in the house for, probably about 2-3 years. And I was able to see wrestlers every single day, introduce them to the ring, feel the energy of the crowd and get kind of used to that. And I think that helped me, one, because I was able to see how the wrestlers worked, what their strategy was, what their faults were, what their successes were. But also, when I stepped in the ring the first time, a lot of people get overwhelmed feeling that energy of a crowd. And not to toot my own horn, but I think I handled it well, the energy, and not getting too overcome with the moment of what was happening. I had been there before in the sense of being a ring announcer. It's much different as a wrestler, but it wasn't too foreign to me where it got me out of my game plan.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, because the ring announcer, if you're watching this and you only watch pro wrestling on TV, if you actually go to a live event, whatever city you're in, you're going to get a lot different feel for the ring announcer's job, because they're really the master of ceremony. They're the ring master, and they're getting the crowd moving from match to match, keeping the crowd involved during the downtime in between matches. So there's really a lot more to it than you see on TV.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was able to have that experience about 2-3 years going through that. And it definitely prepared me mentally for what was coming. I still had to do the physical part, obviously the training and everything. And once you're in there and you're actually getting slammed and hit and everything, that's a whole new level. But inside here, I was very comfortable in where I was. And I'd been wanting to do this ever since I was a kid. I thought, I'm sleight of frame. Maybe it might not happen. Maybe try a ring announcer. But there was always that bug. Like I always done athletics in high school. I was a 2-time state football champion. I wrestled. I did track. I did baseball. So there was always, anytime I was ringside, there was a very itching feeling like I want to get in there. I want to get in there. At the same time, I'm wearing my suit. So it's like, they're doing their thing. I'm doing mine. But eventually it hit a wall to where it's like, I have to do this. So I don't have any regrets, because that's my biggest thing in life. I don't want to be 80 years old and wonder what would have been like if I would have, actually gone and taken a leap of faith and tried this. And I'm super, super glad I don't have that regret in my life.
What was the thing that made you flip the switch and say, okay, I'm going to go for it?
It was honestly just seeing the wrestlers, because I own the Arizona Pro Wrestling Training Center with Don Vitale. And so every day I would come in there and I would see the wrestlers and I would see the work that they were putting in, and I would see the shows and see the excitement and everything. And I thought back to when I was a kid, and I made a promise to myself and also to my parents, to my family, that I would become a wrestler. And so I would be doing Hindu squats and push-ups and dips and crunches, running outside. I would be doing workouts in the living room while we were watching wrestling. And I just remember, as I was contemplating getting into it, I just remember my mother talking to me, and she would always say when we were watching wrestling and I was working out, she would say, I hope you make it worth it, all the wrestling that I have to sit and watch, John. And she just said that jokingly, but there was some truth to that, Yeah. And I felt that deep in my soul, like, you know what? I owe something to not just myself in making this dream come true, but for all the people that supported me. I by no means would be where I am without the support of my fans, my friends, and my family.
Well, that is a huge part of it, right? Because you need those people behind you, your wolf pack, if you will. You need people back there pushing you forward, because it is a commitment. I've talked with independent wrestlers from around the region, and you got to think about it. I mean, you're working a full-time job. A couple have kids that they're raising as well, and you're putting in the hours in the gym, doing the travel, going to the match. There needs to be that reward, that return for it. And the support is so important, especially if you're at a show with 1,000 people. Each person is worth so much, and you just have that connection. Not saying that going to an AEW show or a WWE show where there's 15, 18,000 people in attendance is bad. I mean, it's not. It's a great experience.
Right.
But that small experience, just like PCW live on Broadway, when you're in there with 700, 1,000 people, you can literally see everybody's face in the arena as you're walking around to the ring. There's got to be a huge connection. You really do have to draw a lot of motivation from that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's a lot of people that come to these shows who I know personally, or I've gotten to know through wrestling. Wrestling has opened up so many doors to meet so many people, to help so many people. We often think that wrestling is, just what happens inside the ring, but it's so much more than wrestling. That's our motto at the center. Sometimes, we try to really let the guys know, like, what you're doing is not just wrestling. It's more than wrestling. It's inspiring people. It's telling stories. It's giving them heroes. It's, battling the villains who would try and keep you down on your dreams. And that's something that we try and really hone into the guys, that what you're doing is important. If you treat it the right way, if you do things the right way, you can have a real effect on people, and you can really grow to feel a love for people, which I do have for the people of Arizona. It's my home state. I love Arizona with all my heart, and I love that we're able to have these shows and bring people together. I've had people who started dating because they came to our shows and they met each other.
Oh, really?
And they have families now. And then I've had families who have gotten reconnected because, they decided to go see so-and-so wrestle, and they hadn't seen their other family member for years, and there might've been some hard feelings, and they come there to support someone else, and they realize the love that they have for that other person, even though there were some hard feelings. Wrestling, for all its wild madness and craziness, it can really heal a lot of people. And I truly believe that. I think that was the biggest thing that drew me to wrestling, was the power it had to inspire people and to heal people in its own unique way.
That's what I was going to ask you. What got you into co-owning a wrestling training facility?
So it was probably about 2 years into my ring announcing. I met Dom Vitale. I had met him like when I had first started into wrestling, and he and I were just sitting one day while we were prepping for a Phoenix Championship Wrestling show, and he and I both looked at each other and there was no real training center in Arizona that had a solid curriculum that taught athletic-based wrestling, that held people to a standard physically that they needed to be, but also taught them life skills, and that it was truly there for them. And he and I both decided, you know what, we can do something that can have a massive effect on people. And so we decided to open up the Arizona Pro Wrestling Training Center, because we got people with tons of experience like Gabriel Gallo, Alexander Hammerstone, Joe Graves, Dom Vitale himself. Like, that's decades and decades of wrestling knowledge that our guys can pull from. But the other thing about it, especially a guy like Dom's become one of my best friends, and it's truly because of his character as a man. He's a good man. He tells it like it is. He doesn't pull any punches, but he's always there to lift someone up. Gabriel Gallo is a hard-nosed individual. He's super tough when it comes to wrestling. He respects the business, and he expects people to treat it with such respect. But having those type of personalities, they've truly been a blessing to me and my guys, and helping us to build a culture in Arizona, not just a wrestling company, but a culture.
Mm-hmm. Well, in a way, getting back to the old territories, I was just reading an article on our website, Las Vegas Wrestling Scene, about the old TV territory in Las Vegas. This is going back to the 1950s, and then all the way up to about Vern Gagne was involved, the head of the American Wrestling Association, before the AWA was going. So old school territory wrestling, that's becoming so popular again. I mean, I think a lot because of the Vice TV show, Tales from the Territories. And when you take a look at it, areas like PCW Arizona, you're kind of bringing back that old territory feel.
Yeah.
Which I think is great.
Yeah, I think we are. I think that people are really getting attached to the wrestlers. They enjoy that they are local wrestlers, people that they can root for, and that they can see their hard work coming to fruition, that, hey, there's something here, and this person could be a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a genuine interest in seeing the wrestlers here succeed and get to a grand scale, but also enjoying the time that they have with them here. A lot of the fans that we have coming to our shows, they have not necessarily been to tons of wrestling shows. They wouldn't be your quote unquote, smart wrestling fans. They're very new to the business, but they're fully engaged when they're in the audience, and they're fully invested in seeing the wrestlers win or lose.
Well, and they are getting a chance to see nationally profiled wrestlers. Alexander Hammerstone's the MLW Heavyweight Champion. He's also the FSW Champion in Las Vegas.
Absolutely.
I was just able to cover the Ultimate Women of Wrestling at the House of Blues in Las Vegas. Rochelle Riveter, who's been on a couple of PCW cards, she featured in there, and you can see her in FSW too. And I know, John, you've been able to get out to Las Vegas and wrestle some.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that there's a connection, that we're kind of building a network of territories in the Southwest where you're going to be able to get some crossover and then see people that take that next step? The Alexander Hammerstones, the Chris Bays, Clark Connor, I know, works out some with you, and he's featured prominently on New Japan. He had a great match, a star-turning match in AEW's Forbidden Door last year. So you can have that local aspect, but you're also seeing world-class talent. which is a great combination.
Absolutely. I think that that's another one of the benefits of Phoenix Championship Wrestling is we bring the big stars to truly test the local guys, because you never know how good you are until someone better comes along. So we've had guys who have fought big stars, like you mentioned, Alexander Hammerstone, Richard Holiday, Anthony Green, Toa Leona is a fixture over here at Phoenix Championship Wrestling. We've had JR Kratos, who is with the NWA, and the list goes on and on. And those are the type of guys that you want to bring in. Like you were saying, there is a network that's building. The good wrestling companies are getting a connection to each other, and it only is beneficial for the wrestlers and also the wrestling fans.
Yeah, I think the internet is helping open it up too, because I mean, here I'm old enough. When I was in high school, if I wanted to see world-class championship wrestling from Texas, I had to make sure that I had to either was at home on Saturday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which didn't happen much because I was playing sports, or have somebody at home hit the VCR on the independent UHF channel that showed their syndicated show.
And hope that they recorded that the right way for you so you can see it.
Be up to 2 a.m. so I could watch ECW. So it was hard to watch it. Now I could watch all those matches on YouTube, just type in a search, and the different independent territories, you're able to really do a deep dive, and you can get a lot of it on YouTube, and you can build up that following that way too. It, I think, really gives you guys some great promotional opportunities.
Absolutely. I think that's something that we as a collective industry, myself and also the fans included, that we should be grateful for. You know, the fact that we have that type of, you know, way to broadcast our talents to people and to let it be known who we are and where we come from, what our story is. It's super cool, because those types of things, you know, weren't around during the territory days. I think there's pluses and negatives to wrestling in the territory days back way when, and also to wrestling nowadays. But that's one of the big things, is the ability to gain exposure. You know, if you'll handle your social media and your, you know, promotion, your self-promotion the right way.
Sure. And is that something that you hit on at Training AZ with all the people?
Oh, absolutely.
Social media management, because yeah, you're right. I mean, it is something that can get you in a lot of trouble. I mean, we just saw the NXT women's champion just got let go because of a social media dispute.
Right. Yeah. And we always talk to our guys about that. You know, you are a business and you are contracting your business yourself out to other businesses, and you've got to know your audience. Like, if you choose, with everything, there's consequences. So if you choose to do something, you have to understand that that other business, they might not want to do business with you. Like WWE, they're a very PG company. That's how they've grown to be so successful as they are. And that's their prerogative. So if you don't want to follow those rules, okay, cool, but that might not be the place for you. And I think that's what we kind of learned from that situation that you mentioned. But
yeah,
we do teach that at the school. You know, there is accountability to your actions, and you have to really decide what you want to be and how you want to present yourself, and be understanding that if you do choose X, you know, frame of light, then you're only going to get Y frame of opportunities when it comes to wrestling. You know, you might not be able to be the big star at WrestleMania. So be comfortable with what you're choosing to do.
Yeah, very true. I mean, if you decide you're going to specialize in death matches, there's a limited avenue for you to go down. You can have a great living, but it's a tight lane.
And it's, you know, obviously you're increasing the risk on your body too with that type of style of wrestling. But are you comfortable with that? That's what you got to say at the end of the day. Like me personally, you're never going to see me in a death match type of environment. It's not who I am as a wrestler. It's not what I grew up watching. I'm very Bret Hart was my, you know, inspiration growing up. My dad's favorite wrestler, so he and I would watch Bret Hart matches all the time. And so that's the type of wrestling that I like to engage in, and that's going to be the type of wrestling that I'm going to engage in the future. And, you know, is there a certain niche of fans who, aren't gonna watch me because I don't have those, death matches and that mentality? Sure. That's the consequence I make of, choosing this path. So
Yeah.
I just think people got to be aware of what they're getting involved in and be accountable too. Don't sit there and blame, oh, well, this promotion won't book me because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, you chose that. So be accountable for what you're willing to do.
Well, in your ring psychology, your style of match factors into that as well, too.
Yeah.
And speaking of ring psychology, kind of breaking down some of the rest of the card, the clinical psychologist of wrestling class, taking on guy we were just talking about, Dom Vitale. That's the other side of your bracket.
Yep.
How do you break down those two guys?
It's a weird thing because I think Dom does respect the brashness of class, because Dom is a brash guy himself. He and I, as much as I love Dom, I consider him a brother. He and I have different ways of going about things sometimes, and I think the brashness is something that he can relate to with class. But at the same time, class is the type of person who loves his pretty face, who loves his pretty ring attire and everything like that. And Dom is a very gritty individual. He grew up watching ECW. He's from New York. He's tough, and he talks it and he backs it up too. So what I think is going to happen is Dom is going to make the Prince of Privilege, have to really dig down deep for some guts, and he's going to have to bring all that out if he's going to advance to the second round. Me personally, I would love to face Dom in the second round, but if I got to face class, so be it. I'm game. He's talked a lot of stuff about me recently, about how I just, settle for average and I'm the, sign of an average person. And I'm really upset about that, honestly, because there's nothing about me that's average. I might have an average background. I might have come from an environment that most people would never get out of. Like, honestly, Gerald, I was raised in a trailer park. I don't come from wealth. I don't come from a big family of college graduates. I don't have the luxury.
Don't have a medical degree.
And I'm okay that he, has those luxuries. Like, he's a doctor. That's great. I think that's awesome. But my problem with class is not that he's a doctor, not that he's successful. I think all those things are great. The problem is when you try and shove those things in people's faces, and instead of lifting someone up and telling them they can be something, you tell them, no, you're always going to be X. And I'm not that type of guy that you want to get in that argument of you're always going to be X, because I've risen out of any type of box that you would want to pack me into. I don't live in the trailer park that I lived in growing up. And, I'm very proud to say that, but I also don't look down on people who do, because I see the value in them, despite the fact that they might have had, a bad upbringing or hard times, or they're still going through hard times. Like, people can change and people can grow and people can do what they want to do. And I think I'm an example of that. I don't think I'm average. I think I'm a person who, whose family struggled over and over and over and over again, and who finally, because of my family struggle, they built me up to a place where I could get out of that environment. That's what I think I am. I think I am the product of a family who has put in the work, and I am able to finally break through with my family standing right beside me through whatever glass ceiling that whatever people would try and put in front of me. So hopefully class hears that, and hopefully he can, think a little bit more next time when he tries to call people average just because of where they come from.
That's a big contrast in style, in psychology, because you're saying, hey, you can pull yourself up from the bottom, and just because somebody started higher up the ladder or perceives themselves to be higher up the ladder, that doesn't make him any better than you or give him a better chance. But he's kind of saying, I'm a class above, and that's what's driving the argument, I'd say.
Well, and that's, like I said, like, I don't have any issue with him being successful. Like, he's a doctor. We need doctors. You know, we need good, successful people out there. But the problem is when you say you're a doctor and the basic tenet of being a doctor is lifting other people and helping other people. Like, he's got this twisted frame of mind that says, oh, you are X and you are always going to be that. Like, it's not the case. People change and people grow, and people are not, you know, stuck to their own circumstances. So, you know, hats off to him for becoming a doctor. I think that's great. But that diploma isn't going to help you in the ring with Dom Vitale. And if you get past Dom Vitale, it damn sure ain't going to help you against me.
And you guys have had a few matches in the past, I'd imagine. And here's a quick glimpse of you two in the ring.
Yeah. We've never had a match. That was
really?
point blank.
Okay.
Like, if we were to wrestle against each other, it would be our first match. That's a prime example of him basically trying to belittle someone else. So he was in a match with a guy and he won the match. Everything was over. He decided to get up on him and start mounting some punches. And I had enough of it, man. Like, I can only take so much, especially from a guy as condescending as him. And so, you know, one thing led to another and we got into a little brawl.
Okay.
Suffice it to say, he doesn't like me, and I'm okay with that. I don't like him. So we face off the ring. You know, styles are going to clash, and also, you know, social classes are going to clash. I don't care what it is. Bottom line, what you can call it is, you know, it's going to be a fight if class gets in the ring with me. And for as much as Dom is going to push him, if he gets in the ring with me, for the first time in his life, I'm going to make class struggle. I'm going to make him know what it feels like to really have to struggle, the way that I struggled growing up. And he's going to have to pull himself out of that just like I had to.
You could even say it would be class warfare.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's coming up right here, January 7th. There's some of the other combatants. Got Remy Marcel in there. Graves.
Yeah. Remy's a good guy, and Graves is a load, man. Like, I've been in the ring with him twice now. And every time I've been in the ring with him, I've bled. You know, it's not my proudest thing to say that, but, you know, he delivers some hard hits. If anyone has been to an FSW show over in Las Vegas, they know that. They know how hard Graves can hit. So he's going to be a force to be reckoned with in the title tournament too. But I don't know. There's no guarantee that he's going to beat Remy. Remy's a fan favorite over here in PCW AZ, and he's one of the toughest fighters we got out there.
Have you ever had 3 matches in one day? Because it would take 3 to win.
Yeah. 3 is the magic number, right? I've had 2. So, you know, I've got to reach a little bit deeper than I have in the past to pull out that third one. And if I get to that third one, it's going to be the hardest one. So, you know, the other side of the bracket is Toa, it's Draco, it's Graves, it's Remy. So I've got my work cut out for me, and I'm okay with that. You know, I'm used to putting in a hard day's work. My dad was a carpenter, and, you know, he would always take us out, you know, building homes and doing everything that we could and working with our hands. We weren't unaccustomed with having to do hard work and do long hours of work. So
it's definitely a lot of work.
Saturday's going to be a long day. I'm built for it. I'm game bred.
Okay. Well, here, we'll wind it down here, go into the championship round as the LVWS Wrestler of the Week. Let's go ahead and just ask you a couple questions. I think you already answered the one. So maybe who's your second most influential wrestler on your career?
Second most influential, it'd probably have to be AJ Styles.
Okay.
I think in the sense that who he was, he does so many amazing things in a wrestling ring that I don't know if I'll ever be able to do. Like, you know, the spiral taps and the springboards and the, you know, the dives and everything like that. Like, I have my own unique style. It's a little bit different from AJ, but the one thing I appreciate about AJ is we have a similar background and we wrestle similar to each other. He is very gritty. He's very tough, and he knows how to adapt his style to who he's facing in the ring. And so I appreciate that about AJ Styles.
That's a great name. And yeah, he's been successful in Impact and New Japan and WWE.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, a good one. What promotion outside of your own do you follow the closest?
Which promotion do I follow the closest? I would say I've been to FSW over in Las Vegas. It's a great company. I'd say the one that I follow the closest, though, and the one that I continue to try and like earmark my goals towards is PCW Ultra in California.
Okay.
They always have, the biggest stars in wrestling. They have great production. They have a great crew. I've wrestled for them a couple times, but have yet to go on their main card. And so there's goals that I have, and that's one of them, to get on the main card and to really earn my place on there. PCW Ultra is, got wild, rabid fans who love professional wrestling, and they've got a mix of all sorts of different styles, from lucha libre to catch as catch can, to strong style, traditional style wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
They've even got some hardcore wrestling in there, which, like I said, isn't my forte, but you know what? You never know what happens.
Sure. So I guess that's the answer to the next question. What's your main goal now that we're going into 2023? Besides, of course, winning the championship.
There is no goal besides winning the PCW AZ Heavyweight Championship, man. It's the only thing that is in front of me and that I'm so close to grasping. It's a validation of the hard work, and as I mentioned before, it's a validation to my family, to my mom, to my sisters, to my brothers, to my cousins, to my aunts, to my uncles. I made a promise that eventually I would be able to present a championship belt to my dad and have him hold it in his arms. And that's something that I'm 3 wins away from being able to make that dream come true. And so there is no other goal, man. Like long term, obviously there are going to be big goals and everything, but I can't look that far ahead. The only thing I see right now is that Phoenix Championship Wrestling Heavyweight title. It's everything right now.
No, that's the way to focus. So let's tie your 2 careers together. How would Jon Wolfgang, the ring announcer, announce Wolfgang, the wrestler, winning the title?
So we're gonna really get into it there. And so if you got the headphones in, be prepared, guys. So how I would announce it is this: your winner of the match and new Phoenix Championship Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, Jon Wolfgang.
All right.
Something like that.
Well, there you go. So you gave it voice now. Now we just have to carry it through, and the psychology of the match will pull you through, even against a clinical psychologist, if it works out that way.
Yeah, we got a ring announcer over in Phoenix, Miranda Morales, great ring announcer, and she'll do a much better job, I think, than I just did. So, yeah.
No problem. Well, Jon, thanks a lot for joining us here on LVWS Confidential. Where should fans follow you if they want to get connected with you on social media?
Look me up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I even have a TikTok. I'm starting to get with it, guys. Jon Wolfgang, or Jon.Wolfgang75 on some of my platforms. You'll be able to find me. I'd love to put out some content about highlights of matches and everything like that. I'm big into inspirational stuff, so be aware. If you go to my social media, you'll probably see a ton of that. So I won't try and annoy you too much with it, but that's kind of my bread and butter. I need something to get me going every day, and that helps.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great to pull people up. Well, best of luck going into 2023. Hopefully this isn't the only belt you get this month, but thanks again for joining us here. And until the next time we step into the ring on LVWS Confidential, I'm Gerald Bentley. We'll look forward to seeing you again the next time we hop into the ring. Thanks.
Thank you.